Hi, everybody. Welcome to a very special episode of Am I the Asshole podcast. I'm joined today by my Twitter friend and in real life friend, Dan Wickes, a comedian, New York comedian. Dan, isn't that what you are?
That is what I am. Assuming that comedy's still a thing.
Yeah, well, you were telling me that the scene is sort of coming back online.
Just see people posting, we're doing things. We're back on rooftops. We're around. People are inside doing things they probably shouldn't be doing, but some people have different lives than me, so we'll try not to judge.
That's a very reasonable perspective. So, I mean, like, I haven't done any show since, I think, October. Have you done anything since then? I know people were doing, like, some indoor stuff, and I was just like, that ain't me.
Yeah, I haven't done any indoor stuff. I think I did like 2 outdoor things in that time that just like happened. And even though like technically that stuff's not supposed to be happening either, but that's not for me. If it's just a legal thing and not an ethical thing, then I'll do it anyway. But if it's like an ethical thing, then I'm like, I don't know. And also about if I'm going to be exposing myself, that I also don't want to do.
Well, I was looking through your tweets. You're doing very well on Twitter. You seem to be growing very rapidly. You're definitely making me laugh a lot. That is a recent thing, right? You've kind of blown up on Twitter. I think that's fair to say.
Thanks. Yeah, I've been, I think me and a lot of other people have been like, when you're not doing stand up because we're all inside in the pandemic, we tried to find something else to do. And this was what I did. Started tweeting like 8 times a day or something. And then you do that, you connect with other comics, and it's cool. It's a networking thing. Now I know comics in Cleveland. I know comics in DC, just like people I wouldn't have known otherwise.
That is pretty cool. So I got some of your tweets here. This is your pinned tweet. So I guess that means it's one of your best performing tweets, right?
Yeah.
Pinned tweet. Up there at the top, it says, honestly, once there's a vaccine, it seems ridiculous to not try a little bat.
Honestly, I didn't realize that was as funny as it was when I tweeted it. And then I would be like, why is this doing this? Well, and people are like, no, that's great.
I mean, look, I felt this way. Like, I think if I had been, I love Chinese food already, and I don't really give a shit, I don't care. People are like, oh, they eat dogs. I'm like, great, I'll eat dog. I don't care. It's not my dog. It's not my parents' dog. It's just a dog.
Imagine you're like eating the bat, and then like people are yelling at you for eating it the wrong way. Like, this isn't how they do it. Don't put on sweet and sour sauce.
Right. Oh, they're going to say, that's my bat. That's my pet bat. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was just a generic bat. I like this tweet a lot. You wrote, are you mad at me? I was thinking I should check. I will probably do this over and over until the answer is yes. We all know this person.
Yeah, that would not shock you to hear that I had somebody in mind when I wrote that.
Oh, man. It's such a terrible trait.
Yeah.
It's like too much checking in. He said, I don't understand self-help books. If I had the patience to read a book, then I'd have the patience to get my life together. I read a lot of self-help books. Let me tell you something. I don't think it means I have my life together just because I can read one, but very funny tweet.
I got one as a gag gift for Christmas.
Which one?
It was how to win friends and influence people.
Are you? That was a gag gift? I mean, that's like considered a classic.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a gag gift because they're you know why it's a gag gift, because like this might help you.
Yeah. I can see that playing. I love this tweet. This is hilarious. You wrote, the worst part of talking to a girl on the internet is you don't know if she's also talking to some other fucking loser, because she clearly doesn't have a problem with talking to some fucking loser on the internet. Because you're a fucking loser, right? That's the joke.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, guys, so Dan's big on Twitter, so I thought we could do some Twitter-related situations. It's gonna be a silly app. These are pretty trivial here. We'll start off with AITA for making fun of my coworker calling a tweet a Twitter. My 30-year-old coworker is fairly in tune with the internet. Recently, they lost big on GME, GameStop stock, for example. During a social lunchtime Zoom today with a half dozen coworkers, she said her significant other, quote, sent me a Twitter yesterday. I laughed and called her out, saying it's called a tweet, not a Twitter, and asking if she was 60 years old. Everyone on the Zoom felt it was unwarranted, and I was shamed by the group. Am I the asshole for bringing it up?
Yeah, I guess the reaction is what matters to me, because definitely there is a way to bring it up where it's funny and it doesn't seem like that happened.
It's kind of, to me, it's one of those things where it's like, what's that phrase people always, they say, oh, intents and purposes, and some people say intensive purposes. Yeah. And they'll go correct you, and you go like, yeah, but like if you look up those words, like that actually makes total sense. Like it's honestly pretty close to the same exact meaning. So what are you really on about? You know what I mean? It's like, we knew what she meant. Everyone knew what she meant.
Yeah. Oh, but she's definitely the asshole. She's also the asshole. This is ridiculous. You can't say you're watching things on the Netflix. You can't say you Twittered something. This is offensive. And just because people were mad that you overreacted, it doesn't mean that they weren't irked by what you said.
Are you think that the other people were irked by her saying "sent me a Twitter"?
Yeah, it must have been. There's no way that anybody hears that and isn't annoyed.
Does that bother you if I said like, "Hey, I loved your Twitter today"? I mean, I don't.
Well, that's fine, because you could say when you're saying I loved your Twitter, you could mean my account. So it's like, okay. If you're being like, send me a Twitter, like send me a tweet, that's like irritating to the ear.
I think that's a little harsh, Dan. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a little shocked that you're taking this stance.
I'm a hard line on this.
This is a hard line on this, bro. I mean, you need to live and let it live a little, dog. Like I talk like this. It's fun to be like, oh yeah, whatever. I watched the Netflix today. It's like, yeah, that's not correct, but you know what I mean. It's fun.
I feel like, shut the fuck up.
I feel like, Jesus, man, you're high strung. What's going on? You're angry about this?
Yeah, and you know what? Not only is it already irritating to the ear, but this isn't a Zoom meeting, so nobody wants to be there in the first place.
That is a fair point. Being cutesy on a Zoom meeting is almost offensive. It's like,
yeah,
stop.
Yeah, she's like the character in Office Space. Like, oh, looks like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
Yeah, we don't need that. We want to hit end call. Top Reddit comment. Curious Belgian writes, YTA, that was nasty of you. I actually don't feel like it is nasty to just, if she had just said, it's called a tweet, not a Twitter. It's asking if she was 60 years old, where you start to cross into like, now you're taking a shot at this person. Now, yeah, you know what I mean? Like now you're kind of implying like, oh, first of all, you're saying like old people are fucking stupid and you're an old person. It's like not work appropriate. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. It's not nice. It's just bullying. It's ageist. Like, well, I mean, given this is a Redditor, so no social skills should be assumed.
Right.
And but yeah, I mean, there was a charming way to do this. Be like, LOL, you're gonna send me on the Twitter. When you get home, you're gonna watch the Netflix.
Right. There could have been a good laugh there, a little subtle call out rather than a direct like. Yeah, I mean, just because you're factually right doesn't mean that like you're supposed to say the thing. It's like you're Ben Shapiro or something. Yeah, this is Ben Shapiro energy. Just gotcha.
Yeah.
Second top comment, oil, see you later. YTA, you never need to call out a person in a group to correct a silly word, especially in a group of coworkers. It's entirely like she knows it's called a tweet, but enjoys calling it a Twitter. Like I like saying the Google told me when I've searched something. Well, this person is insufferable, but
yeah. Don't make me play. No, they are wrong. Don't make me play your game.
The Google, if I hung out
for you, it's not fun for me.
The Google told me, I'd be like, I don't know where. That's not a joke. That needs to stop.
Yeah.
AITA for making fun of my coworker, calling a tweet a Twitter. I don't actually think that's the sin. I think it's the jumping into the asking if she was 60 years old. I think we do agree. I think you were joking, right? We agree this is YTA.
I think assholes all around.
You think everyone sucks here?
Yeah.
For her calling a tweet a Twitter, Dan?
Yeah.
God damn it. AITA for telling my friend about her roommate's tweets. So I've been friends with Kaylee for 18 years since high school. She and I are more like family. I've been friends with Nancy for a year or two, but we're really just acquaintances who met through Twitter. Kaylee doesn't have Twitter, but Nancy tweets over 80 times a day. Seriously, I did the math. Look at that, Dan. You're not tweeting nothing compared to Nancy.
Yeah, Nancy rules.
Nancy rules. Well, she started tweeting about issues she has with Kaylee. I told myself I wouldn't tell her or get in the middle. Oh, boy. It began to escalate and get kind of shitty, so I muted Nancy on Twitter so I wouldn't see all the shit she posts. 80
do I have to retract my Nancy rules statement?
Ooh, Nancy is prolific, though. You can't deny the prolific.
That's true. Yeah, I do respect the poster.
Tonight, Kaylee asked me to see if Nancy had posted on Twitter about where she went since she never leaves the house, but was out tonight. I checked to see and found out she is planning to leave Kaylee high and dry by moving out without telling her. I told this to Kaylee, plus sent her screenshots of the tweets. Kaylee texted Nancy about it, and Nancy proceeded to have a panic attack in front of her future new roommate. This has potentially caused an issue for future new roommate, and now she might not be able to move.
So Nancy had a panic attack?
Nancy had a panic attack, okay? She panicked in front of the new roommate. Get ready to this. And now Nancy might not be able to move in with a new roommate. And you say, well, what's the source? Well, according to Nancy's tweets.
I actually know this kind of person, the person that goes on Twitter and just shit talks the roommate or like other people in their life. It doesn't shock me that Nancy had a panic attack, given that she's shit talking her roommate and tweeting 80 times a day about her roommate. Nancy has mental issues. That might not be the right way to say it. Nancy needs help. There's something wrong.
Well, that is a running kind of joke on Twitter, but is it a joke? I mean,
it's not a joke. I know this person. I know this kind of person in real life. Nancy's probably pretty, like, there's a good chance that Nancy's not representing these situations with Kaylee well. I'm very concerned for Kaylee's well-being. I'm concerned for Nancy's well-being too, but not in the same way, because it seems like Nancy's causing a lot of problems, even though maybe not her fault, because she's probably dealing with something. But Kaylee has, like, now in this situation with this person who's clearly not well. That's not her fault at all.
But why do you think it is? I mean, I definitely know this person as well, you know, or I see this a lot, certainly. But why do you think there's this meme on Twitter of, like, everyone on this app is mentally ill? What is it about Twitter? I don't see that on Instagram. I don't see it on TikTok. I never saw it on Facebook.
So I'm not sure people post on those other apps as much as they do on Twitter. I don't know if you get like an 80 times a day poster on Instagram or Facebook, or at least not in the amount that people.
You get the story girls. There's the girls who, and I can be a little bit of a story poster, but I think generally I'm generalizing here. I can,
yeah.
But there's
Also, kind of a bit of the idea of, like, being a story poster is that your story is something from your life, so you're typically doing something.
You're right.
Instead of Twitter just, like, spouting off, I'm depressed.
Yes.
My roommate's a bitch.
So you know people who are just, you know, venting on Twitter, just throwing every little thing.
Yeah.
I love what you said, representing. I think that's a good point. I think, you know, people, they'll spin a story in such a way to make themselves the victim or whatever, and it sells so much. Somebody actually did this to me on Twitter. I won't name any names, but it was pretty brutal, and I was like, that is not what happened at all. And this person had previously been cheated on and actually, like, went viral just slamming their ex.
Yeah.
But they didn't go viral slamming me, fortunately.
Hell yeah.
So.
Twitter virality rules. Danny Vega, not the asshole.
Yeah, thank God. Anyway, back to the situation here. I don't really think OP has done anything badly. I mean, so I'm guessing that Nancy's account is private. That's why the access here, that's why Kaylee had to handle, or that's why OP had to handle the accessing the tweets. Because, right, that's why Kaylee went to her and was like, hey, can you pull up these tweets?
I was pretty focused on the whole Nancy thing. I don't even really... What did OP do?
OP showed Kaylee the tweets. And that is the question here. AITA for telling my friend about her roommate's tweets. So I'm guessing she's private. I hadn't really thought of that layer of this.
Yeah, that does change things, but it's yes and it does and it doesn't, because if it's really 80 times a day, that's still crazy. Like, it's definitely not as bad that it's, like, not public, because it's not this, although it could be, because even though it's private, that doesn't mean we don't know how many people in their circle are seeing these. It's really, it could be, like, it's a deeply manipulative thing to, like, have, like, be tweeting 80 times a day about a person that everybody knows and certain narrative, especially when the person can't respond to it.
Right. Like she's still like, she's not throwing that into the public. I guess I'm wondering, is there any kind of a duty where like, you know, I guess Instagram is more where I relate with this because I don't follow too many private people on Twitter, but you know, like close friends on Insta, and you see, if you imagine if someone broke some kind of news over their close friends on Insta story, are you then, is that implied then that that's sort of a secret? You know, I don't feel like it is. I kind of feel like if you posted it on social media, it kind of becomes public.
Yeah, this doesn't strike me as this so much as like it doesn't strike me as like, because in theory, if it's a secret, I imply that they're sharing this because they genuinely want to talk about something that they don't feel comfortable talking about otherwise. But when it's somebody just it doesn't hold to me as comparable to just tweeting 80 times a day. That feels more like this person just talking shit and trying to gender sympathy.
I mean, either way, there's really no way I can come for OP. I think Nancy is blatantly shit talking someone. It doesn't seem fair. I think this one's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, and Nancy needs help.
Yeah, I think tweeting 80 times a day, it's prolific to the point of concern.
Yes.
AITA for telling my friend about her roommate's tweets. We agree, not the asshole, and Nancy tweeting 80 times a day is.
Yeah. Nancy, please take up a better hobby, and please, if it's somehow possible, see therapy.
Right. AITA for getting someone fired for abusive tweets. Here we go. The Twitter journey.
Ooh, it's dicey.
I follow a gay woman celebrity on Twitter who I admire because she champions gay causes and is a great role model. Under one tweet where she promoted gay pride, I saw a few homophobic tweets by a man for some inexplicable reason had his real name and face on his profile. The tweets included some awful vitriol like the word, the F slur, and all kinds of abusive crap about how he didn't think gay people were equal. I wasn't offended because it's Twitter, but I thought back to how I might have felt as a young gay teenager, and I wanted to say or do something. I saw in his bio where he worked, so I went to his company website and filed a complaint, screenshotting his tweets and saying I didn't think he should be spouting abuse online while representing the company. I didn't hear anything at first, but then a few months later, the company emailed to say they fired him. It wasn't my intention to get him fired, but it felt like a win. I explained what I'd done on another forum, and most people said, well done, and he deserved it, while a few others said I was in the wrong because he might have had a family to support, and I'd gone a step too far. I started to feel bad and worried I'd made a mistake because as much as I loathe homophobia, I hate to think that some innocent people might have struggled financially because of something I did. I also questioned in my mind whether he should have been fired for something he did out of office hours, AITA.
Strong caveat that I'm very happy that this person sees that, like, is open to the idea that they messed up, but I think definitely the asshole. I'm very much not on board with getting people fired from their jobs for tweets if it's like not related to the job.
Wow, good. We can have a little debate on our hands here. I mean, look, I could definitely craft the argument myself, but I'll just cite here rbar174, the top Reddit comment. NTA, your complaint didn't get him fired. His actions got him fired. Isn't this a pretty fair kind of characterization of what happened?
Yes and no. Then you would say, like, should the actions have gotten him fired? Like, should a tweet really get a guy? Like, we don't know what the guy did for work. If he's like a finance guy doing meetings and stuff, then like that's a lot less scary than like if he was just like a construction worker. Like, we're really going to be getting, like, do we really want to be getting construction workers fired for saying some bad things on Twitter?
Well, why not?
Because it's not related to the job, and it doesn't really help there's no rehabilitative thing for him to lose his job.
Yeah, but you know what he did is wrong, and he's doing it publicly. He's doing something wrong publicly. He's being hateful publicly. Would you extend this logic to other domains and say, like, you know, if someone got in a fight at a bar and their boss was there and saw it and said, yeah, you know, you're acting like an asshole. I don't want to work with someone who's, you know, getting into fights at bars. Would you say the same thing there?
Oh, if it's not at a work event, of course.
So you would just say, well, that's not relevant to the job, so therefore it shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
I guess I feel like your relationship with your employer, you know, you're getting paid to perform a service, sure, but it's not that cut and dry. You're also expected to bring an air of professionalism, not bring any kind of bad publicity to the company. And I think, you know, this is negative publicity for the company. It's like this person is using slurs on social media, and it's pretty obvious where he works. It's in his bio, so he's literally kind of representing the company by his own thing. Like, and actually, I think you can keep your logic and say, well, if it's not relevant to the job, he made it relevant to the job. He put his
that's a good point. He shouldn't have had his workplace in his bio doing that,
right? Like I
guess this isn't the same as like a video of somebody on the street.
Exactly. I mean, I think there's something to be said too about getting in a bar fight. You go, well, they were drunk and they were being stupid, but this is like you went onto a public forum and you were hateful. Like, how much more? Like, you asked for this essentially. Like, you couldn't really have connected this more to your identity. Like, there was no anonymity here. This was like, you know, it was written. You fool.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of like, I think that matters though, that the guy might have had a family or something. I think that you have to. I mean, we'd have to know. I don't know what he did for work. I think that matters.
But why does it matter, really? Right? Like, he did something wrong, right? It was his action. That's clear enough, right? Like, this would have other effects. Like, look, if this guy's being a piece of shit right here and right now, and they get reported for it, like, this is gonna happen anyway. Like, that's who this person is. Like, they needed to get zapped. Like, this is the consequences of their actions. The fact that someone reported it and that's why he got fired is really inconsequential. He got fired because of what he did, not because he got reported for what he did. I mean,
well,
you think murderers don't have families? You think, you know, like, there's dozens of criminals have families.
Yeah, but he didn't murder somebody.
Well, whatever. I mean, it could be a financial crime. It could be any kind of crime. It's like there are negative consequences when you put someone in prison for the innocent people around them. Of course there are. That doesn't make what they did okay.
I think that there needs to be a pretty high standard for when people are, especially given like now that it's such a tough time with the pandemic, when people are having trouble finding jobs, and I'm wary of giving corporations more reasons to fire people. Like, I don't believe that he was fired in good faith because they really care about standing up for progressive values.
No, but Dan, of course not. They care because he had the bio of the company. It's not that their company is centered around promoting progressive values. It's that their company, they don't want it associated with saying slurs.
Yeah, that's fair, but you just feel like there could have been some other way to handle this. Like, I've known people personally who have had people reaching out to their employers.
Okay.
Yeah, like there was a thing at open mic that happened like about a year ago.
Oh boy.
Where this is a great story. So one dude, so basically there was this one comic I know. He was up and he was like, I wasn't there. I heard about all this. He was doing some misogynistic jokes, and then some girl tried to posted him on Twitter. Mm-hmm. On Twitter, on Facebook, but she didn't post him. She actually posted a picture of a different black comic.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So she was really trying to get somebody fired. Was that her intent there?
Yeah. And then not only that, she also there was another comic who was just there. I'm guessing he must have been laughing at the jokes or something, but she actually looked up where he worked on LinkedIn and contacted his place of work.
See, I think, it's interesting because I guess I feel with Twitter, with text, with writing, with putting it into a public forum, I believe what you're doing is essentially like saying, you're kind of standing behind whatever you wrote, and it's going out into the public. It's going out into the ether of the internet. So, that you would even connect these things. Cause I actually view that story as the opposite of this, right? Here you had someone at an open mic, and I believe people should be able to say whatever they want at open mics. And I don't think it would be fair. It would be fair for someone to report someone for something they said at an open mic. The whole premise is that you can say whatever you want, and I think short of like threatening someone's life or something, there's really no reason, right? The whole concept is that it actually is kind of a private event. It doesn't lead, but this girl then was trying to publicize it, right? So I see that as the reverse, because I think what she did is wrong and not fair at all.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Yeah. And honestly, I probably did jump a little too quickly to say like that this was definitely wrong and get this person fired. I'm just like a little, because it's very, this is a very like hot topic right now of what's okay for people to get fired for. And I'm just like very like anxious to see anything to like, yeah, we should fire a person.
I feel like there certainly can be corner cases. I can definitely imagine like a more nuanced viewpoint. People get very offended at like very dry things, like whatever, saying that, if someone said like, oh, I believe there's only two genders, like I don't think someone should be fired for espousing a view like that. I think it's ignorant. I think it's wrong. I don't think it's hateful. I think that's and that to me is why this is a no-brainer, because what he said was hateful. If he was saying, I believe science supports that homosexuality is a disease, I'd be like, well, that's probably rooted in hate, but it's not explicitly hateful. You know what I mean? But using a slur, it's kind of like,
well, that's pretty,
well, it's pretty horrible. That is a pretty horrible viewpoint. But I'm just saying, it's like when you just go to a slur, it's like, well, dog, you're just being straight up hateful. Like that's just pure hate. There's really no rationalizing. There's really nothing you can do. Like you're just terrible. You're just a bad person. So that to me is why, and I don't appreciate the language of OP here saying getting someone fired for abusive tweets, right? Like they didn't get them fired. They didn't. They simply reported what they saw. That's not getting someone fired. The company chose to fire them based on what they saw. I'm trying to bring you on board, Dan. Do I have you? Do I have you?
I definitely see it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just like, I do like that it was like that we drag this out a bit, even though it's probably not going to make me look great. But
but you brought nuance to it, right? Because like the open mic situation was very different. I mean, first of all, how hilarious is it that she got the wrong black person? So she looks like
incredible.
As shit. So funny. And literally blindness, right? It's like literally you're blind to what's even happening. You're so intense.
The dudes don't look the same at all, by the way. Like one guy is quite a bit larger than the one that you tagged.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, like I think cancel culture can go too far, etc. I just don't think that, throwing out racial slurs when you have your employer in your bio is a gray area still. I think we have entered into clearly crossing the line. Yeah. It's an interesting thing. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm trying to defend that view. I mean, obviously as comics, I think there is something very important about being able to, freely say whatever you want on an open mic and understanding and people understanding that it might be shitty and it might be bigoted and it might be horrible. Like, that's kind of just a pain of it. But we learn as comics from bombing, from getting a poor response, and then we don't use that material. So it's like kind of key to the process that you kind of have to bomb with it. I mean, how do you address that point?
Yeah, definitely. I think there needs to be a lot of laterality of what to say at an open mic, especially if you're like I get that people there have been a lot of open mics, and I'm on board with this, where they'll be like, no hate speech, no making people uncomfortable. Totally cool, especially when you specify it out at the beginning. And I think that's very different than what happened at this open mic, where a person just tried to contact somebody's employer. I think that's a different situation entirely.
And this person was saying misogynistic things, but would you describe it as hate speech?
I wasn't there.
Oh, you weren't there. You just heard about this.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, and the comic who was the comic who was the wrong black dude, who was the one who was tagged, who was not the one who said the jokes, was laughing his ass off while telling me the story.
Oh my God. I mean, I've heard all kinds of things at open mics. I've seen a lady take all her clothes off. That's probably the best thing.
Yeah, we know that lady.
We love her. You appreciate it. I've heard.
Hope she's okay.
I've heard every racial slur at open mics, and I mean, I think what most people think is like, well, you have no future as a comic. I'm not offended that you said that. This is a forum where you are allowed to do that. It's still not cool, but no one's going to make you leave because we recognize, well, it's a fucking act. It's an act. So your act fucking sucks, but you don't have to leave, But I don't know. Yeah. I guess on the internet, it's like, I guess that's what I'm struggling with. I'm having cognitive dissonance because I'm like, why is an open mic okay? But then saying something on Twitter, well, couldn't you just make the argument, well, I'm just trying it out, What's the difference?
Yeah.
I guess it's the level of impact is part of it, right? Like, you know, you're saying it in front of 20 people, you get their reaction live right there instantaneously. It's a small group, especially if it's an open mic, but even if it's a show, you know, everyone is free. People are technically free to respond back. So you have no kind of control over, like, you know, like people could start yelling at you or theoretically fight you if that's what needed to happen.
Yeah, and it does make sense that like a comic trying to be funny is different than a person trying to be hateful who was like a vice president of sales at Dyson or something.
Right, yeah, Dyson. You know what? Here's what it is. I think I have it. I think I have an answer that I can live with. When you're writing a tweet, when you're writing, you have time to think, and you can look at it and you can go, okay, well, this could be taken this way, and there's a premeditation to writing. Whereas, you know, when you're on stage and you're in the heat of the moment, you might go off on a tangent, go on a riff, and you might say some shit that you regret later. I've definitely done it. And I think we want that freedom as an audience. And I think audiences love when they can sense spontaneity and riffing and improvisation. But that is a pain of that, is that sometimes you are probably going to go too far or say something offensive or say something horrible. And I think that is the difference. And that's why I think that comics should be given leeway when they say fucked up things, and why you shouldn't, you know, videotape someone running a set or at an open mic and report them to their employer because, you know, they went off the rails.
It actually makes me think of a funny idea. Like, so the idea, like, so part of why this was so bad and why the guy said these things, when the guy said these things and he had the company in his job in his bio, it'd be really funny if a comic had like their actual job as their credits before they were brought on stage.
This guy is a account director at Fannie Mae. Give it up, everybody. Everybody goes crazy.
And then he just has a totally edgy, like, Legion of Skank style set.
Yeah, right. Just super blue. It's like, oh my God, I didn't know Fannie Mae endorsed this. Well, look, I'm happy I brought you on board for this. So we finally do agree. AITA for getting someone fired over for abusive tweets. We agree, not the asshole and the guy saying the F slur is.
Oh, yeah. And there was never any question that he was an asshole.
Right. Well, I felt like you did have some question, Dan.
No, it would have been both were the asshole. It wouldn't have been. Yeah.
Got it. Well, hey, man, thanks so much for joining me. Guys, follow Dan on Twitter. What's your handle again?
At Dan Wickes.
Dan Wickes, DanWickes. He's a great tweeter. One of the Dan_Wickes. Don't forget the underscore.
Yeah, Dan_Wickes. Yeah.
Legendary tweeter. He's killing it on there, and he's a great comic. I haven't actually seen your stand up recently, but my friend said you're crushing it. So I look forward to seeing you around.